Thank you, and welcome to the Agency Balance Podcast, where we talk about marketing, tech, real-life self-improvements, and things that make you happy to find your balance. Agency Balance is sponsored by SmartAcre, a marketing technology agency that creates solutions that align B2B marketing, sales, and service to drive results throughout the entire customer journey. Get the MarTech experts. Get SmartAcre.com. Here is your host of the Agency Balance Podcast, David Snyder.
Welcome to another episode of the Agency Balance Podcast. I can't believe we're back around here today, and I'm so pumped to bring another guest with you today, Jackie Voutsinas, Director of Accounts at SmartAcre. Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is super exciting. I've been super excited to potentially get a spot on the Agency Balance since I found out that it was something that you were going to move forward with. So this is great.
Well, we're excited to have you on. We're going to have some fun today. But before we do that, I would love for you just to spend some time to share with our listeners a little bit about you, your background, what you've been up to.
Yeah. All right. So I am newly in the role of Director of Accounts at SmartAcre, which is super exciting. So that's something I definitely want to spend some time touching on. Previously, I held the role of Senior Account Strategist at SmartAcre. I've worked for a couple different agencies in the past. I've worked in-house, so I've worked at a variety of different industries and definitely have, a little bit of everything going on in my background at this point. I live in Center City, Philadelphia with my chunky hound pup Diggs. And yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. So right off the bat, for our listeners, agency versus in-house. So obviously agency, you're working on a bunch of different clients. And when you're in-house, you get to focus on one. So maybe just talk about that a little bit, about the pros and cons or things that you've seen, or maybe for any of our listeners who are considering going one or the other.
Yeah. So I remember after kind of my first stint in agency life, I was like, I think that this is something that I enjoy in the moment, but will burn me out long term. I think I'm going to go in-house. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be so easy to just focus on one thing. And then I went in-house, and I realized pretty quickly that not having a full team and being expected to do literally everything. I was a graphic designer. I was a copywriter. I was the editor, proofreader. I was doing all of the things. I was doing the technology, all of it. And it's so hard to get things done. And it's so hard when you go from that team atmosphere where you have someone to give insight and gut check you, or even just like client approval and communications with the client versus like, no one's going to sometimes check, depending on, how your team is structured, how big you are, where you are in your career. You might just have to do it all pretty much yourself. And you just have to kind of fly by the seat of your pants without really much guidance or structure. And I didn't like that. And I also missed the fast-paced agency life. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely for me. And it's something that kind of keeps me on my toes. I like that every day is different. I like that I don't just pick up on exactly where I left off the day before and, have a very one-track mind. I like that we have a variety of clients that I get to work with and a whole team that I get to spend time with and learn from and engage with every day. So for me, that was kind of the big, plus side of agency life and why it was a no-brainer to come back.
Yeah. I mean, that's been it for me for years, is like, you don't just get up every day and work for the same company. I mean, you're doing that, right? But you're working for so many other different companies, and it's giving you a variety, keeps you on your toes. It keeps you learning, always be learning of different clients and figuring that stuff out. So you're doing that, right? So you let's talk about that for a moment. Let's get right into one of the things that always stands out. And I've known Jackie for years, and I've seen you continue to grow. But you're a boomerang employee of SmartAcre.
Yeah, one and only. SmartAcre boomerang, and yeah, I mean, this whole podcast is about agency balance. And my first time around at SmartAcre, I obviously loved it. I loved everyone I worked with. I was super engaged. It was the work that I loved. It was a perfect role for me. I was an account strategist. And, I think I had a lot of what I was doing from a client management and just general marketing perspective down pat. What I did not have down pat was my personal life and the balance and just how to show up for my team in a way that aligned with who I wanted to be professionally. And a big chunk of that came from the fact that I was still living by this mindset where I had to be like business Jackie. Every day when I showed up to work, I was, in full business attire. I was in heels. I had my hair curled. I was, fully done up for the day. I didn't talk much about my personal life or just what was going on outside of work, who I was outside of the office. And I think that for my personality type to not just be authentically, and pretty much anyone, to not just be authentically who I was and, talk the way I wanted to talk and say what I wanted to say and chit chat about my life outside of work, kind of unapologetically. It was really hard for people to understand me, understand what was going on in my life. Some of the things that, were probably areas where I've definitely needed to change things up a little bit because I just wasn't talking about anything. I was just like, I wasn't doing a great job as far as balance. I wasn't showing up on time. I wasn't there every day. I wasn't showing up for the team. I was a frustrating person to probably work with across the board in that nature. And that's because I really had not established that balance yet. I was trying to do it all. I was young. I wanted to go out with my friends for so-and-so's birthday. We were, traveling here for the weekend. I was working, 10-hour days because I was all over the place. I wasn't focusing on the right things. I didn't know how to balance my time and my schedule. So I was working hard, but I wasn't necessarily working on the right things. And, I was trying to go to the gym every single night after working 10-hour days. And I was just burning myself out while at the same time insisting, no, it's fine. I'll get it together, and I was not getting it together. So it didn't work. And, it was definitely not an area of my life where I was like, oh yeah, I've got this under control. This feels fine. So until I just kind of established where I was lacking, which took a while, it just wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I know that's that's tough, right? But when you stop and think, if you are struggling right now, I think prioritization and putting yourself first and starting to think about you is really important, because if you don't got you're straight, how can you, and as you're expected to lead others, it's a difficult thing. Maybe just talk about like now, right? Like, so what are some of the things that you've done to find more balance for yourself? Especially now that you're continuing to level up in your career. How are you, like, give us some ideas and give our listeners some ideas on what they can be doing and be mindful of that.
Yeah. So I think that just in general, that whole transition as a young professional is really challenging. And, for me, I had to really sit down and be like, what do I want my life to look like? What's important to me, across the board, professionally, personally, all of those things. And is what I'm doing and, how I'm doing it, who I'm spending my time with, what I'm focusing on, does that align with what I want long-term? And, if it's a no, if it's not an absolutely yes, you should probably reconsider it a little bit. And, in life and in general, and in agencies, especially in the role that I've been in, it's really hard to not get pulled in a trillion directions. And just, I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that I have to be my own anchor. No one else can do that for me. And I have to make decisions based on what I know is going to align with what I need in order to be successful and to be happy and feel fulfilled across the board, career, personal, and everything. So, being that anchor and realizing that sometimes for me, that means, all right, I need to do one Bikram yoga class a week because I need that 90 minutes where I shut down and there's no phone, there's no laptop. It's just me and sweat, basically, like that's something that helps my brain recalibrate and it helps me show up better. So when I'm working and, it's around 5 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I need to shut down for this class or I'm not going to make it. And something pops up or someone on the team asks me a question and, it's really easy to be like, this is urgent. And, I'll just go to the class, another day this week or next week or something like that. But putting myself as something that is also urgent helped me remember that that is what I need to do in order to find balance, and balance is urgent. If you don't have that control and you start to burn yourself out and spiral a little bit, not doing that, silly thing, whatever it is for you, a yoga class, going to the gym, spending time with your family, for you, cars, sports cars, all of it. So not doing that is actually hindering your ability to handle those urgent things as they do come up, and in general, just focus. So definitely something that I learned along the way.
That's great advice. Definitely listen, write that down. And you said something to me the other day when we were kind of prepping for this a little bit, and I love this. I think this should be on a t-shirt. The power to show up as yourself. You said that to me. So I think I think that's it, right? I went through a period of my time as well in my career where I didn't feel like it was me. Like there was a run of time where I was like, it was me. I was being myself. I was feeling comfortable in my role and in the position that I was at the agency and my peers around me. And then I was kind of like faking. I wasn't quite me. I wasn't natural. And then it got to another chapter of my life where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I'm going to wear white rimmed glasses today, people, because I like to wear funky glasses. And today I'm wearing a basketball jersey because that's me. And that's who I want to be, because I'm going to be myself and I'm going to talk about myself and I'm not going to apologize for it either. So thanks for sharing that. Anything else you want to talk about regarding like trusting yourself and kind of that managing chaos aspect? Anything else to elaborate on there?
Yeah, so that was another kind of big part of it. And it kind of ties back to the whole being your own anchor thing, is just like trusting that when you make those decisions about where you're spending your time or not spending your time, that it's for the right reason. And you made that decision with a purpose in mind. It's like, I need to do this because of that. And if you don't trust yourself and stay true to that and actually hold yourself accountable to that, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You're going to end up back at square one before you made those decisions in order to help yourself get wherever you were trying to get, or get over whatever you were trying to get over at that time, or improve. So just really sticking to it and showing up for yourself and being kind of true to your own word and remembering why is super important in order to, stay balanced from what I've seen and learned.
Yeah. So switching topics a little bit, but you shared with me an aha moment where the whole team and client balance. So now you're kind of in a director position and managing a team. So for any of our listeners out there that are kind of just getting into management and overseeing a team, anything you can share or talk about of how you go about prioritize? Oh my God, I can't talk, people. Anything you can share about prioritization for your team members, or anything that comes to mind when you're starting to think about, how do I go about my day?
Yes. So my big aha moment came almost 2 years ago at this point, where I felt like I was, showing up. I was working super hard. I was making sure our clients were happy. And I thought that would translate to team happiness. I thought, happy clients, how could the team be stressed? Everyone's super proud of what we're doing. Everyone's really happy with our work. The team's got to love that, right? But they were stressed, they were frustrated. There was this friction, and it was because I was putting the clients over the team. And I was like, hey guys, so-and-so reached out to me. I'm going to hop on a quick call with this client. Can we move this meeting to some other time? Or, hey, I can't review this for you by end of day, like I promised, because so-and-so just reached out about this or that, or this came up, or, we just got this email. And I would also just like kind of bend over backwards if the client's like, let's totally shift gears and do that. I would be like, yeah, let's do that, instead of taking a second to, stop, decide whether or not that's the right move, or whether that's going to cause massive chaos to the team if we just scrap all the work we did for weeks and we just throw it out the window in order to switch directions for something else. Is it the right move for the client long-term right now, et cetera? And what does this do to my team if I tell everyone, okay, we're going to totally pivot, do a total 180 right now, and we're going to focus on that instead? Of course, it was causing frustration. So when I realized that focusing on the team and putting the team first and making sure that they were supported and they felt happy and they felt confident in the work they were doing, and also they knew where to focus, it was a total game changer. And I just felt everything was received a lot better from the team. We were working better. The clients were even happier because the whole team was just doing better work. We were able to just it was frictionless at that point. It felt like a true cohesive team that translated to great work for our clients, and just everyone grew in the process. I saw a lot of people level up once we were really doing that, versus the unintentional kind of chaos that I was causing by just catering to the client and like pivoting 24/7 based on any time a client needed something.
Yeah. And that's really interesting to me. I think, you come at it from, obviously you have a lot of strategy in your background, and you're coming at leading accounts and leading a team with like strategic vision. So lift the curtain back a little bit. Share how do you go about developing a plan and developing a strategy, either for a client or kind of to do the work, and how do you even come up with ideas? Like what's your inspiration? How do you incubate in your mind?
So I'm going to channel my Lisa Zwickel here, and you have to start with the goal in mind. It's the only way to be successful. If you don't have the why and what you're trying to accomplish, there is no way you can figure out the how. There is no how. If you're doing marketing just for the sake of marketing, you're not going to see results. You might get lucky. You might drive a couple leads if you throw, a paid ad campaign up there, but what are you really trying to do? How does this translate to your overall business goals? And I think why I've been able to be so successful as someone who works mainly in the strategy space is I really take the time to relentlessly get to know my clients' goals and just their business and how their team works and what success looks like to them. And the more aligned we've been with a client in that space, the better everything has been across the board. Our relationship, the work we're doing, the results we're seeing, everything. So for me, that's critical. And that's how I start. As far as how I come up with ideas, I'm not going to lie. You mentioned an incubation. There isn't much for me. They come up pretty quickly. I'm the type of person where I can very easily be sparked by this comment or that comment, and things really just kind of come to me. And I don't hesitate to share those things, which is something that does tie back to what I learned as far as not creating team chaos. I have these ideas. I get super excited about them. I am very passionate about something that I'm like, oh, this is super cool. This will work. But is it something that's going to cause friction? Is it going to cause chaos and frustration? Is it realistic, or is it just a fun, shiny new idea? That's been, as I've leveled up, that's something that I've really had to just kind of pull myself back on and make sure I'm not getting too far out of bounds and being just realistic. So
Yeah, that's really important. I fall into that. I have fallen, and I still fall into that trap of like, all right, here's an idea. I'm gonna drop whatever I'm doing, and I'm gonna just go with it and go. And I get myself in trouble because I just run fast too quickly right out of the gate of something where I haven't really spent the time to analyze it, think about it. So it's something that I continue to work on, because I've always been confident that just like if you fail fast and then rebound. But yeah, sometimes you need to let it sit back and simmer for a little bit there. That's interesting. So we're remote. You're remote. You were remote kind of for a while before we kind of went fully remote in the agency. Like looking back, like now versus being in an office or managing, within an office, like how has that changed? Or like, is this really like, is this the new norm for everybody? Like, I always like to talk about that because I think everybody has different perspectives. Like, how does that work for you?
So I do think it's the new norm. I can't imagine just being like, I'm going to go into an office every day now. I don't think I would like it. I really enjoy the flexibility of working from home. And I think it does kind of cater back to what I mentioned earlier with having a set schedule and doing these things. And, in some ways, some people find the opposite where it's like, oh, I'm working from home. I can just sit at my computer forever. For me, I actually considered an office way longer than just like, all right, I'm going to stop and I'm going to eat dinner. And I'm like, you know what? I did enough for today. I need to shut down for the day, or I'm going to go do this. Or, a friend sends me a message and says, do you want to go grab dinner? And like, you know what? I can actually just go grab dinner versus, oh, I'm actually still at the office. I was the type who would just sit and I would just work. And like the thought of packing up and ending my day, I was like, oh, I can just do one more thing before I do that. So I actually feel like I am more balanced as a work remotely employee. And the only thing I really miss is just being with the team. We have such a close knit group of people who just really thrive when working together. And I think that we really have figured out how to keep that culture alive and keep those communication lines open with the tools that we use. And it's not like we don't communicate 24/7. I feel like I talk all day, every day with everyone on the team, which I love, but that FaceTime is invaluable. And I think that you've all done a really great job of establishing a balance in creating opportunities for us to get to do that through, annual training events or annual retreat, which I'm super excited for, and just, making time. I love when we have the opportunity to go meet a client in person, which means I get to spend some time with the team in person. I had a whiteboard session with Lisa a couple of weeks ago, and it makes that in-person time even more valuable. And I feel like it's like a good reset, and everyone comes back. And even when we go back to working from remote, that just energy is still really there. So I love it. I don't know if everyone loves it, but it works for me.
Yeah, it is. I think we're all kind of settled. I would say, like, I feel that we're in the settle in phase of working from home, for companies that are just, have never done it before. And then there, but I think the cool thing, right, is what you just said there is there's opportunity still to get in person when you're a remote company, especially like if you're leveraging, going to visit a client. So I would encourage you, if you're listening and you're remote and you feel like I really got to see people, like, talk to your manager about it. They'll figure it out. Even if it's like, hey, our stance is we're going to be a remote company, but we'll figure it out, whether if it's a company event or visiting up at a client or going to an event together. Those are opportunities to but I agree. I agree with you. Like, being in person, that is the one thing, that you do miss is, it's just different. It's just different being live versus, on Zooms all the time.
Yeah. One other thing, I haven't figured out the why behind it, but I have found over the past 2 years that the quicker that you can get in person with someone who is either new to the team or that you are newly managing or working really closely with, the better your relationship will be. We have all these tools, and I think we jive really well as a team, and we're super efficient, and we have great communication lines with what we have remotely. But there's something about that early on interaction and that getting to know each other that has to happen in person, in my opinion, for it to really translate digitally. And I've found that with everyone who I've either newly managed or just, have started working with in a closer capacity, after spending just even a brief time with them in person. I don't know if it's because you get to see someone's mannerisms in real life, so you know how to better interpret them online once you see them in, moving and all of that. But something about it has genuinely elevated the way that I've worked with everyone after doing that in person with them. So just a little tip.
That's a great tip. And to build on that, we've definitely identified that as a company. So, like, the one thing, onboarding new people, our SmartAcres, our employees, is taking longer virtually. Just getting up to speed, you just miss the kind of being shoulder to shoulder with somebody that you can ask questions, even though you can do it over chat and everything. So one of the things that we really did was try to make sure that we schedule things when new SmartAcres are coming on. So, like, for us, the beginning of the year was a big ramp up year. So it was really important to invest into doing in-person training. So that's one thing you can do. So I would encourage that for sure. When you're feeling like, hey, I'm not there, or you're onboarding some new team members, try to see if there is an opportunity to kind of cluster them together and come together in person. So that's a great tip there. Okay, let's switch it up here, because I want to learn more about some randomness of Jackie V. So this is the point where I talk about Dave's Random 10. All right, you ready for this?
I hope.
Feel free to elaborate, laugh, ponder. They're not too tough, but there's some good ones in here. All right, we'll start off easy, because I don't think I know this. Maybe I do. All right, number one, coffee or tea?
Oh, big coffee person. I actually don't like tea at all. I've tried so many times in so many ways to find. I just don't enjoy tea. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't. Yeah. So, how do you take your coffee?
Um, I'm either like iced coffee, usually all summer, which I like to make myself. I love my old crappy, like Mr. Coffee, just like straight up old school coffee pot that I make coffee every morning, either hot or iced. And if it's iced, it's a little bit of oat milk in it. If it's hot, just a little bit of half and half. And that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to mess mine up too. I don't. I like to put sweeteners and
I'm not a black coffee person.
no, not yeah. All right, cool. So number 2, football or football?
Oh, definitely the former. I'm not a big football or soccer girl.
Soccer. Okay.
The New York.
American football.
Yes, I love playing fantasy football with my friends, and I definitely am a big American football person, and not a big fan of the other.
Well, I know you're a Mets fan, but what are you in American football?
Giants,
Oh,
yeah.
so you're Giants. Okay. Because usually like Mets go with Jets.
Yeah, yeah. It's growing up, whole family is Mets, Giants, and Rangers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, the Mets are doing well, but
they're doing.
Giants, I think you got a couple more years.
We'll see. It's been interesting watching them in preseason, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Do you dare wear Giants into Philadelphia? You would never do that, right?
No, I have some very neutral Mets and Giants gear specifically for that reason. Like I have a all white Mets hat with the white logo, just white, and that's like as far as I'll go if I'm going to like a game. Going to an Eagles game, there's no way I'm wearing anything giant. I'm just going to keep it very simple. And you just don't want that. Everyone knows how Philly is.
Right. They threw batteries at Santa Claus. They'll never let that down. All right. Number 3, sun or snow?
Sun, for sure. Yeah, I don't really love the cold.
But you
So
live in the Northeast.
I know. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. But yeah, definitely a sun person.
So as I've gotten older, I definitely love the sun more too. Although it's been really hot. Well, most of the country's on fire right now. But the thing that I like about snow, I don't mind snow, but it makes me appreciate the sun even more that we have 4 seasons.
I agree. I do love having 4 seasons. Like, I think the worst is where we are now with this hot summer in Pennsylvania. And then the polar opposite is when it's super, super cold. It's like that bone chilling, like it hurts to just breathe outside. Those are the 2 worst times of year. But everything else is, you can deal with it. It's nice. So, but yeah, there's something peaceful about the snow and the quiet and just like the serenity of when it snows. And obviously, I love to watch my dog just like play around in the snow. It's the cutest, funniest thing. But otherwise, I don't really. I'm not like a winter sports person, so I don't have like that joy for it or anything. I love being on the beach. I love paddleboarding. I love the sun. So that's definitely my.
Yeah, I've never tried paddleboarding. I think I would enjoy that.
I saw it on the list of things at the retreat that could potentially happen. And I
Oh,
would definitely do some team time on a stand-up paddleboard.
all right. I think I know the answer to this next one, but there could be a wild card in here. So, cat, dog, or goldfish?
Definitely dog. Yeah.
Dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a big animal lover across the board, and I've had all three. But yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And yeah, definitely a big dog person. Dogs are so funny to me. I just think they're the most hilarious, perfect beings. So yeah.
cool. Yeah, I haven't had fish since I was a kid. That's like a kid thing. I mean, then my son, when he was real little, we got him goldfish, and they all died like quick, and then like one just lasted forever.
I feel like that always happens. I had this fish named Blubber when I was a kid, like one of those big chunky. I don't know if I don't even know what they're called. I was obsessed with this thing and it lived forever. And then when it finally died after, I don't even know, it felt like a long time when I was a kid. It might not have been that long, but in my head it was long. Had a little funeral for it and everything. So yeah, was definitely a big fish person at one point in my life.
Interesting. That's neat. All right, a good book or popcorn and a movie?
Definitely a good book. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. That's tough. I say a good book. I think in theory, like I think I would like to be the person who's like, oh yeah, books over movies. But like, do I really spend more of my time reading books than watching movies? Unfortunately, no, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I think there's a time and a place. I think I'm also just coming off. I was on vacation with my family last week, a lot of beach time. And on the beach, I will read a book. So I think I'm coming off of that where I'm like, oh, I'm a book person. But in 3 months, if you ask me again, I'll be like, I'm a movie person.
So for our listeners, what are you reading?
When I do just big summer beach trip like that, I love to have just like a good fiction, just easy read. And I am about halfway through Hotel Nantucket, which I've really loved so far. It's getting juicy. It's interesting. It's just so different than what I usually read. I like to read things that are kind of more career related or about, the way your brain works and all that, teamwork, all of that usually is kind of my jam. But in the summer on the beach, I love a good fiction book like that. So yeah.
That's interesting. So for my side, like I love far out there Star Wars. I love Marvel, anything that's action based, comedy, stupid stuff in movies. But when it comes to the books, it has to be like I'm learning, I'm reading something that's going to further me in business or anything. I can't do anything that's like nonfiction in a book. I'm complete opposite.
That's funny.
Yeah, I can't. But I'm with you there. I think, a good movie. The last movie we saw was the new Thor. We took the kids to see the Thor movie.
That's fun.
Yeah.
This movie I watched was I think it was on Hulu, and I didn't love it. It was about, I don't know. It was not fun. It's not a fun movie.
Well, there's some good ones coming out, and as we get into the second half of the year. All right, we've debated this one. I did. This is a repeat question from my past, but we've debated this internally. And what's funny is I've done this 3 times, and everybody looked at me with a strange face. I know you won't, but doors or wheels?
Oh gosh, this again. It's definitely wheels. We have debated this so heavily as an agency. It's got to be wheels. There's no way it could be doors. It just, if you think about just like all the gears, I think the team's going to be so annoyed to hear this pop back up again because everyone's just like wheels, it's wheels at this point. But yeah, I'm very much team wheels.
Yeah. I was with you there too for a while, but then like the doors thing really threw me because I have so many cabinet doors in my house. Like the kitchen cabinet doors, they probably have 47 kitchen cabinet doors. There's 2 doors to my office right here. Like I hands down, there are definitely more doors than wheels in my house. I could tell you that.
Oh, there's way more doors than wheels in this house. But I think outside of the home, like everywhere else, there's just way more wheels. But I don't know. Now that you say that, I'm looking into my kitchen. I'm like, I see so many doors right now.
Right. But then you think of how many automobiles there are, and then the gears that are in things. Yeah. But yeah, that's the infinite debate of doors and wheels. All right, back to the animal realm. I love animals too. And if you don't like, so what is your favorite zoo animal?
Man, I have this weird affinity for gators. I just think they're so weird and interesting and like terrifying, but also funny. Do you ever see like what actually is happening when a gator's swimming underwater? And
no.
Really spooky up top. Oh, I have to send you the picture. It's so hilarious. They're just like floating so awkwardly with their paws out, like they don't know what to do with their hands under the water. And it just looks absurd and like not at all scary from the bottom, but from the top, if you see a gator swimming towards you, it's terrifying. But underwater, they just look very awkward, like they don't know what to do with themselves. And they just kind of float through the water with this, like, I don't know what to do with my hands situation. And it's very funny.
Oh my God. Well, because I think they're trying to be still, right? So like to capture something, but yeah, alligators and crocodiles, I do find them as amazing. I think because they're like prehistoric, which is really cool. My son is really into reptiles. He loves them. When he was really younger, we used to go to like there was a TV show called Gator Boys that they would like wrangle the gators, and he was obsessed with this. Like we even went to go see them, and we went to like alligator wrangling things at like the fair. Yeah, alligators terrify me. I mean, we don't have alligators here really in the Northeast, but yeah, that's interesting. So that's cool. Yeah, alligators are cool. That's I don't think I'd ever want to have one as a pet though.
No, absolutely not. I feel like one of the baby ones, they look very adorable when they're like babies. They're like lizard size, but like any bigger than that, like I don't want something that's gonna like roll me and drown me for fun.
All right, we're getting into the 2 deep questions. Boy. If you could tell future you, what would be something that you would change? So if you could go into the future and be like, Jackie, you got to do this, change this, what would you change?
Go into the future and like change something in order to alter, like.
Sure.
I feel like it would be easier to explain, like if I could go back and tell past me a thing, but like go and tell future me a thing. Like,
sure, dude, you can do that. We can go back to the future. We have a DeLorean. We could do it that way.
Yeah, Biff Bucks. I think I would just tell Pasby to just like be authentic, be real, like show up as you actually are versus how you think people want you to be. And that's across the board. And that's something that I think probably everyone can resonate with. I don't know what I would tell future me though. I don't know. I feel like I learned so much every year that I'm like, oh man, I knew nothing last year. So I can't imagine like what I could possibly know now to tell future me that they wouldn't already have like learned light years beyond.
Yeah. The one thing that I've learned as I've gotten older, if I could be, because I'm a talker, hence why I have a podcast, but just listen more. I get so much more satisfaction of listening into conversations. Like I have to contribute. That's just in my DNA being an extrovert. But like listening, I should have listened a lot more.
Yeah, you and me both. Everyone who listens to this will definitely get a laugh out of that one. They know me at all. But yeah, that's definitely something that I've learned a lot as I've stepped into this new role where I'm not the one who's leading the conversations with the clients. It's been almost painful to just sit and just only listen and just like zip it. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's something you have to work on. All right, last one. This is the last one. What is something you're going to keep?
Something I'm going to keep. Just what I mentioned earlier, putting the team first always and just supporting them and just knowing that that will always make me feel a trillion times better. It's very rewarding for me. I love to help people and watch people grow, and just knowing that that translates to success across the board. I think no matter where I am in my career or what industry I'm in, the more you can help others and give to others, the more it comes back in the long run.
Well, that's the top 10, and I love that quote. I think I got to make it a sticker or a shirt or on a shirt. The power to show up as yourself. I love that. Take that away. Write that down. Everybody who's listening, Jackie, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn as Jackie Voutsinas. If you can spell that right off the bat, you earn like a bonus something. And then on Twitter, it's at Jackie Thinks. So you can find me on either one. And yeah.
Well, Jackie, thanks so much for coming on today. This was really fun. And yeah, we'll make sure if you can't spell Voutsinas, you can copy and paste that out of the podcast. Check out agencybalance.com where we'll put those links as well. And have a beautiful day, Jackie.
You too, Dave. Thank you so much. This was super fun.
Subscribe to the podcast at agencybalance.com, Apple, YouTube, or Spotify.